Hi there, and welcome to our manufacturing webinar series. My name is Kesia Curran, and I am a customer success manager here at the CRM team. Over the course of the next 3 sessions, we're going to be exploring how manufacturing organizations can use Monday.com to improve visibility, streamline processes, and create more efficient operations across the organization. This series has been designed to be highly practical and rooted in real-world manufacturing scenarios. So rather than focusing solely on the platform features, we'll demonstrate how those features can be applied to common operational challenges faced by manufacturing teams every day. The goal of this first session, Monday.com Basics, is to give you a solid understanding of the platform's core concepts, navigation, structure, and terminology, giving you the confidence to begin building and managing your own manufacturing workflows within Monday.com. So to dive straight in, and in this session, as well as the next 2 sessions, we're going to be working with a textile and apparel manufacturing example. So we're going to be looking at a maintenance request and then inventory and warehouse management. So just to give you some context, but to start off with, we're going to be discussing the building blocks of Monday. So the building blocks of Monday are kind of the foundational core pieces that allow you to build out those workflows, those processes, and track all the relevant information that you need. So the first building block is a workspace. Now, a workspace is like a dedicated hub or container that groups together all of your boards, dashboards, documents, and folders related to a specific team, department, or project area. So it helps you organize your work by keeping those boards and docs together so nothing gets lost, kind of in a sea of all the unrelated content. I know a lot of clients currently, or one of the big pain points is you have folders within folders and then Excel documents that you have to go and kind of sift through. Whereas on Monday, you have everything in one place, everything labeled, very easily accessible, very easy to navigate as well, and a nice way just to keep everything separate. It also helps by controlling access. So within a workspace, you can actually invite specific team members, you can limit their access, you can control their permissions, so you have every bit of control over what someone can see and what they can do within that workspace. And it's also just a nice way to group multiple boards together. So a single workspace can hold multiple boards, dashboards, and documents that all relate to a specific function. So in this particular example, my workspace is called Manufacturing Webinar, but as another example, you can use a workspace to group your different departmental workflows or boards. So you can have an operations workspace, you can have a finance workspace, you can have an HR workspace, and all of those different workspaces can hold your different boards, tracking those different workflows and pieces of information. If we go through to managing our workspace, you can see here the content. So this gives you a nice oversight of all the different boards that you have in that workspace. And if we go through to our permissions section, this is where for your owners, members, and non-members, you can go and control the specific things that they can do and that they can see. So on a really granular level, you'll be able to customize all of their access, which is really, really powerful. Now, the second building block is a Monday board. You can create a multi-level board or just a plain board, and I'll go through what the difference is there. And you can also create a private board. So if we click on, if we go back to add, we want to add a new board. You can create the board as a main board, a private board, or a shareable board. So a main board will be accessible to multiple people. They don't need specific access, whereas a private board is locked to everyone. So if you create a main board and someone has access to your workspace, they will be able to see that board. Whereas if you create a private locked board, even if someone has access to that workspace, they're not going to be able to see your board. And then a shareable workspace allows you to create a board that you can then give guest access to individuals who don't have a main Monday access level. Perfect. So if we go into the 2 boards that we have created, or that I have created, and that we will be going through in the next few sessions, we've got our maintenance request board and our inventory and warehouse management board. So a Monday board is where the actual work lives. So if a workspace is the room, board is the working surface inside it. So it acts as kind of like a smart interactive spreadsheet that your whole team can see and act on in real time. So it will track a particular flow, it will track particular information. So in this example, we're looking at the flow of a maintenance request from a new submission to when that request gets completed. Whereas on the inventory and warehouse management board, we're looking at just housing kind of a repository of information, which is our inventory and kind of finished garments. And then you'll see within our boards, we have these different groupings. So a grouping is a way that you can group together different bits of information. They can be used as different phases or stages of a flow, which you can see is what we've used them for in this particular example. Whereas on the inventory and warehouse management, we've used these groups to separate out the items by their type. So trims and notions, fabrics and raw materials, finished garments. So it's just a nice way, you can use it however you want, a nice way just to kind of separate out and group that information together instead of just having one long list of data. Then on data, the next item we're going to be discussing is an item. So an item is a single row on a board, and it represents one unit of work, one record, one request, or one thing that you are tracking. So in our maintenance requests, the one item is the actual thing that we are tracking. So from the new request, it comes through, we can track where it is, if it's been assigned, if it's in progress, if it's complete. And then the second type is just a record. So if we go into our inventory and warehouse management board, it's a record of stock that we have, current stock, when it last was restocked, SKU. So by having these individual items and the columns, which I'll go through in a moment, it allows you to have this piece of information and track multiple different types of details across that item. The second type of item that you can have is a sub-item. So a sub-item can be created in relation to the main item. So the main item will be the parent item, and then the sub will kind of be, it will come under that. So this can be used to add additional information to a task. So for example, if you have a main task and perhaps that task has subtasks, then you can create those subtasks as a sub-item. And now if you remember when I was creating the board earlier, if we just go back, you've got a new multi-level board type. So with a multi-level board, you can actually have sub-items of sub-items of sub-items. So in this case, it just goes one level down, but with our multi-level boards, we can actually have multiple different layers. So we'll have the main item, then we'll have the sub-item, and then we can have further a sub-item of a sub-item. So if you have very kind of complex item structures, it's a nice way to create that hierarchy. Awesome. So moving on to the next piece, which is columns. So a column, like I mentioned earlier, is just how you can track all the details linked to your specific item to make sure you have all the information that you need. So in this case, you can see we've got a few different types of columns. The first is a people column, and this is a really nice way to assign ownership, to see if someone who has requested something. It is limited to people who have licenses. So if you want to assign someone who doesn't have a Monday viewer or member license, you won't be able to use the people column. But if you are looking to be able to assign someone who does have a license, then a people column is what you would need to use. Then you've got your date columns, you've got your status columns. So a status column is a way that you can track either, actually, if I click on this one, the piece of information and where it is in a particular process. So here you can see we've got new, assigned, in progress, pending parts completed or cancelled. And typically you'll see if someone does have a status column, it will mostly be in line with these groups because you can then use automations to control the flow of those items through those groups with the statuses, which we'll also be covering in today's session. Another way that you can use a status column is a categorization. So here you can see we've got priority, and then we've also got asset or equipment type. We've got a drop-down. A drop-down is very similar to a status column. The only difference, or the key difference really, is that you can have multiple selections. So if we look at the location, this actually should probably be a status column because here we're not going to have an item on the sewing floor as well as the loading dock. So we can actually go and if we want to now, we can change the column type to a status without having to create a whole new column, but I'm going to leave it as a drop down for now. If you wanted to create a new column, you can just click on add column and choose from either what's on the first page that pops up. This is just kind of the essentials and the super useful. But if you're not seeing what you want here, you can just click on more columns. And it will then show you the full variety of what's available. So I can see on our board, we don't have a description column for a maintenance request. This is obviously something that is really important. You want to be able to have a place where people can go and actually track the description of this type of maintenance that they want. So I'm going to look for a long text column type. I'm going to go add to board. And then you can see we've got this long text. I want to change that to say description. I think something that I'm also not seeing on our board here, which I'm going to add, is the request type. So it could be an emergency breakdown or planned maintenance. So if we go and we add new column, I'm going to use a status column for this because it's just going to be one type of thing. It's not going to be multiple options that we need to be able to select. I'm going to go and edit those labels. I'm going to say perfect. And then we are going to go and change this to now these two columns aren't really in a logical place. We want those to kind of be over here. So I'm going to hover over the column and I'm going to drag and drop this to be sitting next to the priority, and the description I'm going to be putting over here. And for the work order status, I think I actually want that to be at the front because that's one of the first pieces of information that you'll need for a maintenance request. You want to see where that's sitting. So I'm going to put those after the two people columns. Now, the last column type that I'm going to add before we move on to the next part is a file column. So a file column is a really nice way for, in this particular example, to track supporting images. So if you have your maintenance request and something has broken down, you might need a picture to support that, to see what type of breakdown has happened. In relation to maybe HR or finance, if you're creating a purchase order to procure new pieces of inventory, you can have a file column for that purchase order. Or for your HR, you can have contracts, you can have legal documents. So it's a really nice way to house those files all in one place without them kind of being separated out or shared and siloed between emails and Teams or Slack. You can have it all on Monday, and then you can actually create a view that's a kind of file repository that has all the files that have been uploaded to that board. So instead of using this plus, because we keep on adding and then dragging and dropping, I'm going to go through here and I'm going to go add column to the right. So then we add it and it's in the place that I need it to be. I'm going to go more columns and then I'm going to go file. And I'm going to add the file. One other thing that I just want to mention while I'm here is a Monday document. So Monday Doc is a nice way to create documents that you can collaborate on live on Monday and that you can pull Monday information to. So it's like a Word document, but it's added as a column and you can reference data in columns, you can reference sections of tables, you can filter out that information. So something, yeah, that's just really useful to know. So I'm going to add this file column. Say supporting documentation. So now we have that for when this request has been submitted. We have all the information that we need. I'm going to move the description over here. Awesome. So the next piece of information, or not piece of information, the next part that I'm going to be talking about is how you can actually now start adding your items onto this board. So the first way is very simple, just by clicking over here. I'm going to delete this one because I'm going to use the same example. I'm going to delete this and delete. So I'm going to say example maintenance request. The assigned technician, we're not gonna assign, that's for someone else to assign. The request submitter is myself. It's a new request. Top completion, let's say today. The asset is the steam press. It's critical. Maintenance type is an emergency breakdown. Now, while we're at it, I see that there's a status column, a status in this column that we don't need. So I'm going to go through here and I'm going to delete that label. Perfect. Supporting documentation, I don't have any docs. I'm going to leave the description. Don't feel like filling that in. Then we're going to go submitted date as today. So the reason I didn't fill the description in, I will touch on that later, but I'm going to show you how you can use Monday to request information. So even if someone doesn't feel like filling a portion in, how via the next method of submission, we can make sure that doesn't happen, and then how you can also then request information once an item has been created. So that is the reason that I have left that blank. So then we're going to go location, finishing and pressing, and then we've got that all submitted. So that's the first way, nothing wrong with it, very easy, but obviously the downside is you have to be on monday.com in order to submit that request. So the second way that you can submit something is via a Monday form. So a Monday form, if we come through to the top here, is a really nice way to have people be able to submit a request, to submit a new piece of information without actually having to open up their monday.com. And they also don't have to be a Monday user. All they need to submit a form is the form's unique link. So the page that we're currently on is the form kind of editing section. So if you want to create a welcome page, a thank you page, if you want to change the title or kind of edit the questions, which in this case we are going to be doing a bit of, this is where you would do it. If we go through to the design section, this is where you can customize the colors, the fonts, alignment, logos, and things like that. And then if we go through to the settings, these are just all the form settings that you can set up and use. So before we look at actually going and submitting a form, we want to add in some more content. So the reason that I say that is you'll notice there are a few missing pieces of information. Now that I've actually created those new columns that I added in, they don't automatically pull through to the form. So we're going to go through and add that content. You'll see the first portion is just the generic kind of column types. But then if we come through here, these are all the new ones that I added. So we want to see maintenance type, supporting docs, and description. And we're going to add that to the form. We're going to say, okay, maintenance type, I actually want to see over there. Supporting docs, we can put at the bottom below the description. Perfect. The one thing you'll also notice is there are some questions that are grayed out. So this means that they won't actually show up when you copy that link. So you can see them if you want to edit them, but they are currently grayed out. So if we go to the question settings, we don't want this to be hidden. We want the assigned technician to be hidden and the work order status as well as the submitted date, because I'm going to show you how we're actually going to automate that populating instead of someone having to fill that out themselves. So now we're happy with how our form looks. So we're going to go through and actually copy the form link and we're going to submit an example. So I'm just going to copy this one. Perfect. So here, this is what it looks like. It doesn't look very exciting. We didn't create any kind of customizations in terms of the look. Like I said, you can change the color, you can add in a background, you can add in a logo to make this really look kind of in line with your branding if you would like to. Oh, no, sorry. Let me go and copy this again. Request submitter is me. Maintenance type is an emergency breakdown. We've got steam press. It's emergency, so I'm going to put as today is the completion. It's critical. Finishing and pressing. And the description. Steam press has broken down. And then if we did have any images, we could just upload that supporting documentation. And now I'm going to submit. So you'll see here that a new item will automatically be created on a board with the information that we filled out. So you'll see some of these are blank, but we were expecting that, so that's fine. So now I'm actually going to show you how we can set up a few automations, which is the next piece we're going to discuss, to populate a bit of that information, to send out a few notifications, and to set some dates. So with Monday automations, I think this is really what sets Monday apart from a lot of other tools, is this automation functionality that you can use to save time in all of those menial tasks that you're doing. So moving items to groups, changing statuses, setting dates. So if you have a standardized kind of process that you can automate or that you would like to automate, you can use Monday.com to just do that for you automatically. So the first automation that I'm going to create is a very simple one, which is a status change automation. Every automation recipe has a trigger and an action. And then you'll also see there's a condition that you can add as well. So my trigger is going to be when an item is created. Here's that conditional piece. We're not going to use that for now. Then we are going to change the item status to new. Something very simple, but just to give you a sense of how it all works, you can have multiple actions. So now I also want to add a new action. I'm also going to notify the person who now needs to come in and let's say assign the right technician. So I'm just going to make that me. I'm going to say assign me and then create automation. So this again is limited to people who have Monday access, but you can notify via email as well. So you can integrate to your Gmail, your Outlook, and you can have the system send emails out to anyone, basically, once you've connected your email account. Oh, I didn't fill out the notification, so I'm going to say new maintenance request submitted. Say, please note that a new request has been submitted by, and we can then actually pull information through from the item. So it's been, where is the submitter? There we go. And we also want to fill in the actual piece of equipment. Perfect. So now we're going to create this automation. Fantastic. So now every time an item is created, it's going to set the work order status to new. It's going to notify me, and I'll get a notification. So quite a simple example, but a nice way just to make sure things run smoothly as that request comes through. Now, the next automation that I am going to set up is a date automation. So I'm going to again use the trigger for when an item is created, and then I'm going to set the date for submitted date to today. So now that automation is a nice way, every time an item is created, that date is automatically going to be set. So the third automation that I'm going to show you, and I know I'm just using these simple examples, but I'm just kind of showing you how you can mix and match all the information that you have in a nice way to move those items through and to automate those day-to-day kind of menial tasks. So the next one is going to be moving an item. So the status, when status changes, we're going to do work order status, changes to in progress. We are going to then move the item to the in progress group and create. Awesome. So now we've got those three automations, and I'm going to now set up an example to show you how all of those automations are going to work in real time. So I'm going to just copy an example here as well. We're going to submit a new maintenance request. I'm going to just copy this link. the name. Oh, I keep on doing that. Let me, sorry, go back and just copy the item name again. Request submitter is me. Maintenance type, emergency breakdown. Sewing machine. Target completion date. Priority, critical, location. Sewing floor, and I'm going to leave out the description and we're going to submit. So now, hopefully that item is going to pop through here. The status should automatically change to new. Submitted date is going to change to the 21st, and you'll see at the top here, I also would have gotten, or I should get, it will just take a few moments. I'll get a notification as well that the new item has been created. Now, before we move on to the next item that we're going to be discussing, I just want to quickly touch on the automation recipes that you have that are pre-built in the system. So if we come through to the automation section and you click on the create button, this will show you all of the pre-built automation recipes that exist. So instead of having to create your own from scratch, you can actually go and use one of these pre-built recipes to set up an automation. So you can see here a very simple one. When status changes to something, notify someone. Or when date arrives, and only if status is something, notify someone. So if you wanted to use one of these, you saw it, thought, okay, yeah, that's what I need. You just click on it. And then all you need to do is kind of go and fill in the parts of information that you would like this automation to use. Perfect. So the next piece that I want to discuss is the views that you have. So you have your boards, you have your items, and this is kind of just the main table. But often you want to actually separate out your information, especially if you're dealing with tens of or 20, 30, 40, 50 requests that are coming in. You might want to actually filter out certain requests to see quickly. I want to come through and see everything that's critical, for example. So if that is something that you want to do, you can create a filter and then you can create a custom view. So to create a filter, you click on this filter section, go to the drop down or the little arrow, and you can say when priority is critical. So you'll see automatically all the items that are critical are going to be filtered, and we're going to save that as a new view. This will now pop up at the top. We can rename that. And we're going to say critical requests. Obviously, this is something that's very important, so we can go and we can pin that. And it's going to be here every time we come in, so I can go back to the inventory and warehouse board. And I've come back to the maintenance requests. We've got critical requests, always sitting here for you to action as soon as you need to. If obviously you don't necessarily need to see one that is assigned or in progress, you want to see all that are new requests that need to be assigned, you can create an additional layer. So you can say where priority is critical and work order status, apologies, is new. So now we've got, I'm going to save it to the view, everything that's critical that is sitting in new requests. So that's the first type of view that you can create. That's based on the main table, just filtering and kind of chopping and changing the information that you want to see. But you also have a few different types of information or views that you can create. So you can have a canvas, you can have a Kanban, which is also quite nice, a more visual view of all these requests that are coming through. So this is what it looks like. Might take just 2 seconds. Taking a while, let me come back here. We've got Kanban. Perfect. So here you can see our Kanban is separated out by this work order status, but you can edit this to be any of the status columns. So if you want to see it by equipment type, everything that's sitting in for all of the different pieces of equipment, or you can look at priority as well. And you can move things in real time between the groups, and you can look at the detail of all the groups as well. Awesome. You can also create on a view, sorry, before I move on, a chart. So this would be a dashboard. We are going to be going through dashboards in a lot more detail in the next session. But if you wanted to create a board-specific chart, just with a few widgets and pieces of information relevant, you can do that. So this chart, okay, nothing has been found, but we can go and edit that. So we're going to go to the settings on our, so this is currently, I believe, a bar chart. Bar graph, there we go. And it's looking at everything completed, assigned, in progress, and new. But maybe we want to see the requests broken up by priority. We can then change this heading. And then we've got our charts. Let me just change something like that heading. Saved. Sorry, priority breakdown, not breakdown, priority. Now maybe we want to see the kind of, what's the word, I've gone blank, but the kind of separation or the breakdown of requests coming through per machine item. So if you've got multiple emergency breakdown requests that are coming through for a particular machine, maybe it's time to replace it, or maybe it's time to do like a proper service, for example. So we're going to do a pie chart. And the label that we're going to use is asset and equipment. So you can see it's pretty equal, but the steam press is coming in more often than not. So maybe it's time that we go and service it, or we purchase a new one because it's causing a lot of problems for us. So same machine split. There you go. That's the word I was looking for, the split. Okay, perfect. So that's just a very kind of brief example. Like I said, in the next session, we are going to be going through dashboarding in a lot more detail. We're going to be creating multi-board dashboards as well. But that's just a bit of a sneak peek into what's possible and how you can set it up. So one of the last items that I want to go over is collaboration and communication. So a lot of challenges, and a lot of the time we get our clients saying that communication is just separated along a whole lot of different platforms. We've got emails coming in for requests. We've got Teams for updates. We are sending emails for more information, but it's all separated. No one has oversight, and it's just all a bit of a mess. So with Monday, it kind of brings all of that together. So you've got the form to submit your request. You've got all the information in one place. It's not being tracked on Excel. It's live. It's updating in real time. And the communication piece, you can actually have all within Monday as well. So remember I said I'm going to leave a description blank on purpose. Most of them are actually all blank, so I probably could have put one in. But now let's say a new request has come through and I don't actually have enough information. The details are not detailed enough, and so I'm going to request for more. Instead of having to send an email that will then, the response that comes through is not going to be linked to this item. So then I'm going to have to maybe copy paste, or I'm going to have to refer back and forth, back and forth. That's not what we want. So I'm going to go into, actually going to use this because steam press is broken down is just not detailed enough. So I'm going to go into this update section. I'm going to look at who actually submitted this request. And then I'm going to say at Kessia. Bit of a lag. The description is not detailed enough. Please provide exact details of breakdown and supporting images. Perfect. Now I'm going to send that update. Because I have actually I know it's myself, but because I have mentioned Kessia, she will then, or I will get a notification saying the description is not detailed enough, please provide the exact details. So then I will get that notification. I will then come in. I'll see, okay, I didn't do a good enough job. And I can go say details, X, Y, Z, and I can then go and attach the images that I need they'll be sitting under files. Someone can then go assign them to the files column, and then you have all the information. And it's all happened within Monday. Nothing is siloed. Also, then what's nice is if someone comes in that has not been part of this conversation, they have full oversight into the images, the details they need, instead of having to now request because they haven't seen the email chain, for example. Okay, perfect. Another nice thing for communication, I don't know if it really applies to this board in particular, but you can also have a board discussion. So you can have discussions on an item level, and you can have discussions on a board level as well. So you can post if there have been updates to the new system, or if there's scheduled maintenance coming in for multiple machines, or I don't know what the case may be, but you can then post it on this board discussion, and then anyone who comes through to this board will be able to come through here and actually see that information. Awesome. So I think that is it for our basic training. In the next session, the more advanced training piece, we're going to be building on what we've covered today. So items, columns, but more complex column types as well. And then we're going to be looking at more complex automations. So adding in conditions, using a workflow as an automation as well, which I'll touch on. And then also setting up some integrations and some dashboarding. So yeah, thank you so much for listening, and look forward to the next one.